Hello Kotlin enthusiast. Today we are delving into constructors and initialization block in Kotlin. These features enhance the flexibility and initialization capabilities of our classes. Let's explore how to use constructors, initialization blocks and object in your Kotlin program. So, uh, first we are going to deal with primary constructors. Okay. So what are primary constructors? Just go to the person over here. Okay. In person class, if you see, I have declared two variables, but in suppose I want to pass it from here. So how to do it, right? So what I'm gonna do, what primary constructor means is I'm gonna say bracket over here. I'm gonna say val name string. Then I'm gonna say val age is here, which is an int. Okay. Now remove this two things. Now if you just come to main activity, red uh, red is showing over here. That is an error. It's not valid is showing. So what you just do is, and over here you are seeing that this is red, right? So just cut this John, and you need to pass the parameter like this. Okay. Just remove this Jane 30 and remove this as well. It's just the same as we have done earlier, but only I'm passing the value like this. Okay. Now if we just try to run this, same output we are gonna get. Okay. So yep. So in this example, we have declared a class person with a primary constructor. The constructor parameters name and age and are also declared as properties. These concise syntax automatically initialize and assign values to the properties. Okay. Now let's deal with init functions. What are init functions? So let's create a class. I just go new Kotlin class file. I'm gonna say suppose example. Clearly. Now what you have to do is I'm gonna say init. So whenever you are calling the object, right, this object, if you're calling, if suppose I'm calling example object in the main, then always this init function will be called automatically. So I'm gonna say suppose, let me explain by the help of the code. So I'm gonna say println, I'm gonna say initialization block 1. Okay. Once that is done, come out of it. I'm gonna say val name string is equals to Kotlin. Then I'm gonna say just copy this thing, remove this initialization block 2, just type this thing, done. And under this only I'm gonna say println name. Okay, so let's see what's the output for this, but before that let's make an object of it. So in the main function, just remove this code. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna say example, remove this parameter, remove these things. So in this example, the example class has two initialization blocks. They execute when an object of the class is created. Initialization blocks are useful for setting up initial conditions or performing complex initializations. So if you see initialization 1, block 2 and the name Kotlin. If you just come to example, first this code is executed, then this, then the whole of this. Okay, so sort of this is the function of init. Now let's combine all the constructors. Now just combine the init and constructors, and let's do an example on this. Okay, so just come over here, create a class called Kotlin. Now I'm gonna say student. So on the student class, small bracket, under small brackets, I'm gonna say val name string val age, it's an int, and I'm gonna initialize it to 18. So previously we were not initializing it, right? If you just come to person, here we were not initializing it, rather we were taking the values from the main activity. But what I have done by default, if I want to put a default value, so I could do it like this. Okay, so once that is done, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say I'm gonna use an init, and then I'm gonna say print ln student initialized name comma age. Done. Now I'm gonna create a function as well. So I'm gonna say fun display info println student information name comma age. I think we are done with this. Now let's come to the main activity over here, the main function. Now let's create an object of the student class using the primary constructor. So I'm gonna say val student1 is equals to student Alice comma 21, suppose. So if you see, it's not mandatory. So if I could remove the age, it's not showing any error. Why? Because if you see, come to student, just gonna remove these two. So if you just come to student, I have initialized it as 18. So it's not necessary to add age, but if you want to override, I could easily override it. But as of now, I'm not overriding. No issues on that. Okay. So once that is done, let's create another object of student class with the default age parameter this time. Okay, so I'm just gonna do it 21, just copy this thing, paste it, student2, and this time we're gonna use the default one, change it to done. Okay, now let's display the information about the students. So I'm gonna say student1 dot display info. What is this display info? If you just press command and hover over it, and if you just click it, so this is the function, okay, which will print the student information, name, age, and everything, right? And student2, I'm gonna say display info like this. Okay, now what should happen, right? What should happen from this? So if you see, student1 display info is there, right? So as soon as we initialize this one, so it should print the init function first. So it should print student initialized name as Alice and age will be 21, right? And same will be and then again, when we have initialized the student2, the details of student2 will be name will be Karthik and age will be by default, that is 18 over here, right? It's sort of like this. So let's see what's the output for this thing. So the age parameter is the student class constructor now has a default value of 18. When creating student 1, we provide an explicit age value. So if you see, first two initializations have been done. The first one initialization is student 1. So we have Alice and age is 21, which we have put over here. Then the second initialization was student 2. So the name is Karthik and the by default age is 18, which is all this. Okay. Now once we call this function, that is student.display. So student.display, we are getting this information from the Alice one, and the second one, student 2, information is Karthik and age 18. It's sort of like this. Okay. Alright then. And there you have it. Constructors, initialization blocks, and using object in Kotlin provide a robust foundation for building object-oriented programs. Whether you are creating instances of class with primary or secondary constructor or leveraging initialization blocks for additional setup, these features enhance the flexibility and expressiveness of your Kotlin code. Practice using them, experiment with different scenarios, and enjoy the benefit of object oriented programming in Kotlin. Happy coding. Meet you in the next lecture. Thank you.